Another edition of Riding Home. Dean Legge, Ryan Curley, and the Dogs getting ready for yet another practice in Athens. Looks like Ryan's right, not so far from Foley Field. Ryan, you got a good chance to take a look at a lot of different things today. Um, let's start though with the defensive line. You were talking about how this D line. Well, go ahead. You just talk about the D line for a little bit.
Yeah, and this is all in the story on the site. But to me, there was three guys to replace on the defensive line, right? Jordan
Sure.
Davis, Devontae Wyatt, and Trayvon Walker. What it looks like to me is that Jalen Carter and Zion Logue step up on the interior and take those two spots. And not a lot of people are going to be able to replace Trayvon Walker, but it looks like Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins is the guy that's going to play that role on the end. He was with the edge rushers in most drills. He was not with the interior defensive linemen. I thought it was interesting the way that they mixed up some positions in drills today. I watched the defense more than I watched the offense today, and they had the nickel corner / the star position, however you want to call it. It's pretty much just a slot corner. They had them with the outside linebackers doing some drills, and most of the drills are pretty simple. They didn't show us anything fancy, but
They
I
never
thought that was
do.
interesting. Well, a couple weeks ago they showed us something extra, but today was pretty standard. And those are the guys that's your starting defensive line right there. It's Jalen Carter, Zion Logue, and Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, and then on the edge it's going to be, if it's based off today, it'll be Nolan Smith and Robert Beal on the first
Yeah,
team. But Chaz Chambliss is definitely going to get in there.
yeah. So I saw that, and I think that's you know, look, they're outside backers, man. I
Yeah,
mean, they're going to be rolling in and out of there. I think to me, your best two pass rushers are Robert Beal and Chaz Chambliss as it stands this second. We'll see where what happens with Nolan as he gets ready for his final season in Athens. I think this is a really good team. Um, I think we're at the point in fall camp where, well, obviously school started, so they're not in camp anymore. But we're at the point here where some guys can sort of, you can kind of get penciled into where you're going to be, and the competition is sort of narrowed down a little more. And this is the time when these guys got to push. It's important
it's
to
go
keep.
time.
It is
It's
go
go
time,
time.
as you wrote. And the other thing is, we keep seeing on the offensive line. I feel like this happened a little bit last year. We're seeing on the offensive line where this team is settling, and they've got 3 of the 5 settled in. But
Yes.
now today we had Jared Wilson at right, Xavier Truss at left guard, but Broderick, Van Pran, and Warren McClendon, Van Pran Granger, excuse me, and Warren McClendon are sort of the pillars of this thing, and we're just going to see where it goes from there. But today it was Truss, Jared Wilson. I'm going to let you talk in a second. Tate Ratledge was with the threes, you're saying, and Devin Willock was with the twos. I don't think we still know what's going on with the guards.
No, I don't, and I don't think they know. And we may have even talked about this, and I guess when we did a video on Saturday, it's not set, especially with the lack of health from Tate Ratledge. Because what it seems to me is that if Tate Ratledge is healthy, he's one of the starting 5. So I think that they're trying to nurse him back. He was not in a black non-contact jersey, so that I don't, and based on the press conferences, it's not super serious, but he's not at full health right now. And that's coming off of a pretty serious injury in the first place. But Truss is in the mix for minutes, and I kind of think we might not even know who the starters are 2 or 3 weeks into the season. This might be a midway through the season thing where it gets established.
Well, look, here's what I'm going to show people this image from DAWGSTRUCTION, and you can see. Okay, so that's Justin Schaefer, Warren Erickson, and Warren McClendon, and I think Schaefer was in there in the fourth quarter against Alabama, but Warren Erickson was not. And what I mean by that is, these guys, Kirby and them will change it during a game, because in the national championship it was not that group, and it was
No.
not They moved people around. They're going to move folks around. They're going to get the line they want or the most preferable one because Broderick Jones played the bulk. I still have not seen the entire game. I just don't think it's going to happen. Okay, but um, we, they're going to play guys even in that moment who are playing better. And Broderick was in there in the fourth quarter of the Alabama game, the second Alabama game. Make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION today. We've got a few 2022 previews remaining. They will be at Red Zone this week as well. Make sure you're picking it up. You buy DAWGSTRUCTION, you get our 2022 preview, which has a couple of articles, or at least one from Ryan in there as well. The Jalen Carter story. I think that
Yes.
so. Jalen is going to have a lot. I look. Let's talk about this scrimmage real quick, okay? This scrimmage is coming up. This is really important scrimmage for a couple of reasons, okay? Number one, and I don't really care what happens, I guess you could say, in the scrimmage in terms of who plays better and all this stuff. The defense has got to play well, or at least they got to fight because they're up against it. This offense is pretty good, man, and I think that's the thing to me is when we hear things trickling out on Saturday afternoon, what's going to really, it's okay, I can hear it. It doesn't matter. What is the narrative going to be? Of course, the problem for me with writing these things is that sometimes I get phone calls at 10:15 at night on Saturday night. So it takes us a while to get through sort of what happened from different people's perspectives. And but I do want to know if the front seven really fought the O line, if that was overreaction by people or not, or what. But we'll see. We'll see. Start of scrimmage on Saturday in theory, at least.
Yeah. Well, we will maybe see some of it.
We will see. We will see if
we
we see.
we may just see some stretching, um, like last week,
That
but
helps. Whatever.
it's something. If one of the takeaways from the scrimmage from the people that you talked to and everything was that the offensive line was better, and it seems that the offensive line isn't set yet, which is what we just talked about. So I'm not I'm not worried about the offensive line. I think that they're a really good unit. So I think that they'll be fine and they'll figure out their five. It might take a few weeks, but I think they're going to figure out who their guys are. I think that's a pretty strong defensive line. You just Zion Logan, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins haven't played a lot, but they have played. So it's not like they lack any experience at all. We know what Jalen Carter is. He was probably the best player on their whole team last year. And so when you go back, linebackers, we're in literally just a few minutes when I leave here in a second, we're going to talk to Jamon Dumas Johnson, the guy that everyone is deeming as Nakobe Dean's replacement, and the guy in the middle. It's going to be up to players like that to shore in the spots. Sorry, this guy's got a motorcycle. Um, it's going to be up to those guys to shore in the spots.
But did he have a helmet on?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
he did.
I think
So
the thing for me, what's concerning whenever you start talking about the defensive line, and this is any defensive line, this is why I thought Georgia would beat Clemson a year ago. We can talk about how great defenses are, but they're going to get tired after a while. I mean, uh, Jalen Carter, Xavier Truss, J- Jalen Carter, Zion Logue, these are big men. I know what it's
yes,
like to be a big person, and you don't really want to be out there forever. And so, what is the depth here? Is Nazir ready to go? Williams, Jefferson, Brinson. There are some guys,
yeah.
Tramel Walthour, they're gonna have to play in these games, and not just play, but make plays. And I want. There's so much. There's a season ago they were dealing with Clemson, right? That's a big deal game. They were underdogs amazingly in that game. Looking back on it, amazingly, and coming into this game, this is a different situation because they're quite clearly the favorite, 17 and a half points, something like that. That's a huge, huge line, and but they're now being graded on a curve, Ryan. They're not the
Well,
team from. They're not the defense from a year ago, and everybody's going to expect that.
people, you know what? And honestly, I've been trying to articulate this a lot recently, but people are over. They are going to be worse on defense. All right, you don't
Right.
replace a generational defense, but people are overblowing. I think it's being overblown. Kirby's always had a good defense.
Right.
All right, they're going to be a good defense. They're probably going to be one of the 10 best defenses in the country, which is good enough to win you a championship again. Freshmen, there are going to be some freshmen that play on this team and make an impact, but that's not something that we haven't seen out of them in the past.
No.
Trayvon Walker made plays as
Jalen
a
Carter.
freshman. Jalen Carter made plays as a freshman. So why is it all of a sudden this year where, because it's not going to be a generational defense, I think that, maybe pipe it down on the freaking out a little bit and just wait to see them play before we really evaluate this defense. But the younger
What?
guys, they're going to play. It's their turn. They're either going to be good or they're not. And I
Come.
think that they're really. I think that most of them are
That's
really good.
that's really good. I mean, that sounds like me saying that. But I'll tell you this: if people can't freak out, they're not Georgia fans. I mean, like
Well,
you have to give them their Larry Munson time, man. Everything can't be this, man. Everything isn't going to be these national championship celebrations where, you know, you're collecting confetti at the end of the game. These guys got cigars and all this stuff. Georgia fans are always panicking about something. It is what they do. They are, I mean, there's Clemson people have grievances. South Carolina people are summer champions. Alabama's never entered a season they didn't win the national championship at the end of it. There's always something wrong at Auburn. You know, Georgia is a group that's just a bunch of nervous Nellies. They've got it in the blood from Larry Munson, and they have perfected it through the decades. They've figured out how to lose. Man, people got to understand this is a different time. And you're trying to be rational. They're not trying to hear your rational talk, Ryan. They just want to freak out. Let them freak out, please.
oh, I feel like I've been the voice of reason the last few months here, so I can rest assured with that. I've been very realistic about this team. Um, I think they're going to be a real. I still think they're going to be a good defense. They have the talent. It is still a bunch of 4 and 5 star guys. There's turnover every single year, so yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not going to be as good. You just can't be that good again. But it's not
We'll see.
impossible. I think I think that's what my video was about today. Was just this offense is going to be dominant. I really do think that. I think
There's
that they're
no
that
one
good.
way that you
But it
have
doesn't matter how you win. It
right.
doesn't matter. You
You
just have to
can.
come out with a W. And at the end of the day, like as a sports fan, I've never cared about that. So yeah, it's pretty to shut someone out and it's pretty to put up 60 points, but as long as your gut wins out, it doesn't matter which side of the ball was better.
Seasons are not the same. I mean, the 11 season, which was a pretty good Georgia team, was not the same as the 10 or the 12. And they both were, Georgia was within a play of winning the national championship in 12, and they had a losing season in 10, and somewhere sandwiched in between that were the 10 straight wins in 11, coupled by 2 losses at the beginning of the season and 2 losses at the end. No season is the same as the previous. And, you know, if you so we know where the bodies are buried. We know where the problems are that Georgia's got. And coming into the 12 season, which you may or may not recall, the issue
Oh, I
was
recall.
well, the issue was they've lost Isaiah Crowell for the season. How are they going to do this? And Todd Gurley was there. And going into 17, the issue was, hey, Jacob Eason, is he ready? And then he gets hurt. And so people are in a full panic, man. Full panic. And then they go on to become within a play of winning the national championship. This time, this time right here, there was no, hey, we're gonna make it a play. They blew their shit out at the end of this game. And, there was no Alabama miracle, for lack of a better term. This time Georgia got them. And people got to understand that the Dogs, this Georgia team, Ryan, this program now should be winning national championships, should be playing for them. There should be zero fear about playing anybody in the country. That's not always going to be the case. That's not always been the case. But there should be zero fear about playing anybody, and Georgia fans should have a bit more confidence than they traditionally do. I'm sure there are some, but people gonna freak out. It's what Georgia fans do.
It's a different football program than it was 12 months ago and it was
Yeah,
24 months ago. This is a program that their expectation, it was the expectation before, but even more so now is a ring at the end of it, the ring at the end of it. And there's going to be young guys that have to step up every single year.
yeah.
Last year was an older team. This team's not as old. It doesn't
No,
matter how
but
you win. It doesn't matter who does it. I got to
no.
go in a second,
Yeah, okay,
but
but well, A.D. Mitchell wasn't young, and he made some huge
A.D. Mitchell
plays.
was young. Keely Ringo was
Keely
young. Brock
Ringo.
Bowers was
I
young.
mean, there were younger
The th-
guys.
the three guys that made those plays at the end of the game in the national championship were freshmen or redshirt freshmen. So
Second year players. So was Jalen Carter. So guys got to step up and play well. All right, Ryan. Thanks for joining us on Riding Home. We'll see y'all after the scrimmage.